Hey everyone. All right, so in this episode, I'm going to talk about losing $150,000 day trading. Whoa, that's a lot of money. I want to put it in context a little bit. The topic is not as much about losing the money, a little bit. It's more about how to recover, how to get yourself recentered after a huge loss, a catastrophic loss, whatever that means for you. You may wonder, just because you lose $150,000 day trading, what makes you qualified? What makes me qualified to talk about it and provide any insight about how to make back money or anything like that? So let me just put up my full screen here. So this is this month. This month has been a disaster for me, truly a disaster. But to give you context, this is my total trading gain in gross profit since 2016. So that's about $6.6 million. But what I'm experiencing right now in this short period of time is a terrible cold streak, a terrible drawdown, a bigger drawdown than I've ever had. Although I am fortunate that I had a really good month in December where I made actually a little over $700,000 in gross profit. So being down 150,000 right now, relatively speaking, given that perspective, is certainly not the end of the world, but it is emotionally devastating. There's no doubt about it. And being red $150,000 on the month, or somewhere around there, it's not great. There's nothing good about that. So, wherever you're at in your trading, my hope is that this video will serve to help you. So if you've had a series of losses, perhaps you can't put things in context of say, well, I'm down 150,000, but at least I made 600 last month. Perhaps you're just down 150,000. There's no way to say it other than that. You're just down. Maybe it's 50,000, maybe it's 100,000, maybe it's a million. Whatever it is, you're down a large amount of money, whether it's in trading or investing, and you're trying to figure out how can I even continue on. So from someone who has been through many periods of ups and downs over my career as a trader, I call it a career. Of course, I've been doing this for long enough that you can call it a career. But even if I just look back at the last, well, I just looked to April of 2020. So let's just look here at this equity curve, and I'll just zoom in on this just a little bit. So you can see here through this period of time, $4.8 million in gross profit. Obviously, some periods here in the beginning where profit was kind of slow, and then a couple of really nice hot streaks. Things cooled off a little bit and then heated back up. Cooled off quite a bit through this period here. This is about a almost month and a 6-week period of really making not a lot. Opened back up. Another slow period in here. Opened back up, obviously a drawdown right there, and then opening back up again before coming into this drawdown right now, which is sitting right here before today's trades. And today's another red day. You actually will know how much I'm red. I won't know because I have a piece of tape covering this P&L right here. And I'll talk about why I'm doing that during this episode. So I am definitely sitting on the biggest drawdown that I've had in my career. I've never had a red month as red as this one is. I've never had a year go this far in the red before going green. I've never had a red day as big as the red day I had just on Tuesday. So $66,000. I mean, these are really big numbers that I'm dealing with here. But I have gone through periods of cold streaks and extended slow periods in the market, and out of each one of them, I have recovered. And so I want to talk about what my game plan is for myself to get out of this current slump that I'm in. And I hope that this is something you'll be able to watch months or years from now that will also be able to help you. So first of all, let's acknowledge the fact that when you experience a loss in trading, experiencing financial loss triggers reactions in the same part of your brain where the fight or flight response comes from, the amygdala. And the problem with that is that financial loss therefore triggers this primitive sort of reptilian brain, if you want to call it that, that is very easily, that part of your brain is where you have that fight or flight response, is where you start having emotionally fueled responses. You become what we would call in this industry emotionally hijacked, meaning that you're acting at that point, once you're in that full fight or flight response, you're acting totally on emotion. And so the typical response then is you experience loss and fight or flight comes out, and the instinct is to fight and to try to revenge trade, to try to make back that loss as quickly as possible. The feeling of loss is a feeling of discomfort. It's not one that any of us like. And to immediately alleviate that feeling, the best way is to hit a big winner, because then you're no longer experiencing a loss. You're back to all-time highs. And just like that, the feeling is gone. And because certainly as a trader, you will probably have had a time where you've done exactly that and realized how good it feels to go from being red on the day to being green. You're very apt to fall into that habit of trying to revenge trade to dig yourself out of the hole. Unfortunately, throwing Hail Mary passes sometimes leads to an interception and the opposite team scores a touchdown. And now you've just gone from, maybe break even or whatever the case is, tied to in pretty bad shape with only, perhaps in this analogy, 2 weeks left on the month, or two minutes left in the game to try to get yourself back in the driver's seat. Now, with only 2 minutes left in the game, with only 2 weeks left in the month, now I'm even more likely to throw a Hail Mary pass, because truly a Hail Mary pass that works is my only chance at recovering. And now you're starting to see a team flailing. And next thing you know, a second interception, boom, right back down to another touchdown, and this is just getting humiliating. Traders experience it. Sports team athletes experience it. It's not by any means exclusive to trading, and so this sort of behavioral response, this emotional response, is one that's really worth dialing into and trying to understand better if you want to become a better trader. Ultimately, for me, my goal at some point will be to experience loss, to have a red day like the second day of the month here, where I gave back everything I made in the previous day, and not allow that, because you can obviously see that on this day an emotional response was triggered. I took 75 trades. I was up 30,000 and finished the day at my all-time lows, having multiple opportunities to walk away, break even. Now, I knew that without even clicking on the day, because I saw I took 75 trades. I can tell you that this was a bad day. This was not a great day. And some of these days maybe were okay, but this one actually was red, and then I rallied to be green. It was not a great day either. So generally speaking, this has not been a good, generally speaking, it's been a terrible month. But something that's important here, when I start a month in the red, immediately from that point forward, I'm measuring the month based on my P&L. And I know that I'm red on the month. And so immediately I start to get into this mindset, feeling the loss of emotional trading and trying to recoup that loss as quickly as possible. And so if we look back actually at November of 2020, I had a similar experience where I went red right away on day one. I tried on day 2 to get green. I really couldn't. Day 3, I had another red day. Day 4, I got really aggressive. I had a green day. Day 5, back in the red. A nice stretch here, and then a couple more red days, and then back in the red. And this right here, this actually, I believe these 2 days put me back to break even on the month. With those 2 days, fourth quarter, we were in the lead, and now we're tied. And that's when I started to get emotionally aggressive here and here and here and here. Look at that, 80 trades, 95 trades. I was grasping at straws. I was hoping for anything that could get me back into the driver's seat. On a month where I start strong, I build confidence, and I often continue strong. And even on these 2 days here where I did take big losses, I was comforted by the fact that I was still up over $100,000 on the year, even after those, or on the month, even after those 2 losses. And so because of that, even though I had a bit of an experience of feeling loss off the top, I was able to look at the glass half full and say, yes, I've given back a little, but I'm still green. So that's going from being 20 points in the lead to being only 10 points in the lead. We're still in the lead, so let's not get too bent out of shape. But that was not the case here for January. So for January, on these 3 days, I was battling every single day, going red and then green, or being green and then red. And so each of those days, that battle, so to speak, triggered that emotional fight, the fight to try to get green, and the fight, and then the temptation to try to throw a Hail Mary pass. And so I would say these last 15 days, 15 calendar days, but these last 10 trading days, including today, have been some of my most erratic and aggressive days of trading that I've probably ever had. I've taken massive positions with 50 and 100,000 shares. I've had some huge winners, but those were only Hail Mary passes that were getting me down a little bit less on the month, and I probably needed 2 or 3 of them to actually get me green. And I've had a number of trades. I had a trade today where I was holding a position. I was up 50 cents on it. I didn't take any off the table. I said, I'm not selling it unless I get back to, unless it goes over this price, which means I'm going to be up this amount on the trade. And so now the trading starts to become erratic and irrational. And I'm sure that this relates to anyone who has been in the market as a trader for any period of time, that you'll find yourself asking yourself, why am I trading like this? Why am I being so aggressive? Unfortunately, when you get into this position where you're in the red and you're trying to make back losses, that analytical and intellectual part of your mind has taken a back seat and is hijacked by that emotional, aggressive part of you, part of me, that is dealing with the fight or flight response and is trying desperately to recoup losses. So I'll go to split screen while I'm talking. So the question is, I guess, regardless of how you got into this position, and I'm just going to pretend right now as if I'm not still green versus the last 90 days. Because that, in a way, it's just, it puts the loss in perspective. So if you are green in the last 90 days, but you've had 2 really big red days, then it is important to put it in perspective. But I also want to acknowledge that many of you watching this may not have the luxury of being able to put it in that type of perspective, and you're just net negative. So I'm just going to say right now that I'm red on the year, and I'm red on the month, and red on the week, and this is the worst 2-week stretch of trading that I've ever had. And just like probably anyone else that's in a performance-based career, I feel that it is incredibly important for me to finish the year green, obviously, finish the month green, hopefully, and to turn this around really, really quickly, because this is not okay. And what I'm doing is not working. So yesterday I tried to do something a little differently. There's a couple of different tools that I want to share with you to help get yourself recentered after having this type of rut, or being in this type of situation. So the first one is what we call trader rehab. So trader rehab is something that I've done several times. I put myself into trader rehab. The last time that I was in an official trader rehab was April of last year. And during trader rehab, I begin usually it happens that I finish a bad month and I'm like, okay, that's it. I had a red month. I can't do this again next month. So, February 1st potentially could be day 1 of trader rehab, although I could just start now. But let's just talk about what that is. So during trader rehab, I adhere to a very strict set of rules regarding position size, share size, and max loss. And so I think the last time I did it, I set my max size at 6,000 or maybe 5,000 shares, which for me is quite small. And I think I set my daily max loss at like $1,000 or something like that. So if I triggered the max loss, I wouldn't be able to take any more trades. And there was no way I could take more than 5,000 shares. Now, the initial response, so if we just sit for a moment, on a day like today, if I say, well, Ross, how about on Monday morning, you restrict yourself to 6,000 shares? That fight or flight part of me is still in charge right now. And that part of me is saying, no way. And so I say, why are you resistant to trading with small size? Because if I trade with small size, I have no hope at making back this enormous loss by the end of the month. That may be true. And perhaps throwing a Hail Mary pass would be the only way to score a touchdown and possibly tie the game. But perhaps you're at a place where even tying the game is not realistic. So is it worth a team member getting injured? Or do we just throw in the towel and say, this was a bad game? Let's just come back and regroup in the locker room, right? So the emotional part of me says, no way, I would rather quit. It's not, and that's now flight. I would rather walk away and stop trading than trade with only 2,000 shares or 6,000 shares. You know how long it'll take me with 6,000 shares to make back $150,000, right? That's that whole train of thought. That's that conversation. Now, that's obviously a very emotionally fueled perspective. And the intellectual part of me knows that what I really, really need right now is some space between this roller coaster, whirlwind, crazy trading. And, I just need some space between me and that. And the only thing that's going to really give me that space is time. And so what I ultimately need is a period of a week or 2 weeks just to get some space from it so the emotions can come back down. Because the P&L equity curve that I've been experiencing here for these last, just for this month, 1/1/21, while this is happening, my emotions are going crazy. I mean, they are just going all over the place. It's not healthy, and it's not clearly producing good quality trading. So Trader Rehab is designed to give me and anyone else that prescribes to it some space between the pain of that loss, because you need that space to let the emotions come back down so you can start to get recentered. Now, it may be true that trading with 2,000 shares or 6,000 shares will give me almost no hope of making back as much as I've lost this month, or however much you're read, in a period of, the next 2 weeks or something like that. And what's the motivation for trying to make it back that quickly? The motivation for trying to make it back that quickly is that the faster you make it back, the sooner you can stop feeling terrible about yourself. You think I feel good about myself right now? You think I feel good about doing a video about losing $150,000 and being read 150 grand? I don't. The comments, no doubt, are going to be people saying, you're an idiot, you're a terrible trader, you should be ashamed of yourself. And those comments are my internal dialogue of my inner critic criticizing me. Perhaps the comments will be positive of, you've got this, man, you've done this before, you made $5 million gross profit last year, what are you even worrying about? You're good, you just have to wait till the market picks back up. Maybe there'll be a lot of positive comments, I don't know. But I hope there'll be some thumbs up for this video. I hope there'll be a lot of thumbs up for doing this type of video, because I do genuinely hope it helps you. And it's important for me to be transparent. Trading is risky, and I showed you that in my disclaimer at the beginning, and I'll, I suppose, put it up again now. Trading is very risky, and it's challenging for a number of different reasons. Most beginner traders lose money for a number of different reasons, but one of the big ones is because of the emotions. The emotional component of trading is the most difficult, without doubt. So in April, when I did a Trader Rehab, I actually had a really great 2-week stretch here. So I was read in March, and then over the course of 2 weeks trading with small size, I did really well. And then coming into this third week, I started to allow myself to trade with bigger size, because you know what? At this point now, 2 weeks in, and 2 green weeks, 8 green trading days, I'm starting to feel more confident. I'm starting to feel so much better about myself. And the market was also starting to improve a little bit, something that's out of my control, but that happened to be the case. And so then I started trading with a little bit more size, and I had a couple bigger green days. But again, the hot streak continued. I finished the month in really good shape. And going into May, I said, all right, I think you're ready to come out of trader rehab. I think you're ready to start opening things up a little bit more and being a little bit more aggressive. Coming into May, I started to put on a little bit more share size again, had some $25,000 days. I ended up with over $200,000 of profit, and then that rolled into the month of June. So where I sit right now is not a whole lot different than the month of March. I mean, the loss is actually bigger right now, but I started March in the red. 6 consecutive red days, 2 red days at the end of February and 4 red days at the beginning of March. And so very similar to the other months that I've been red in the last year. Starting November in the red and then just falling off the rails. Starting January in the red, falling off the rails. Now starting a new year in the red is even more emotionally damaging because of the psychological frustration of being red on the year and not having anything that you can say is I'm green. At least I'm green on the year still. I can't say that. I could say that in December no matter pretty much what happened, but I can't say that right now. I'm red on the year. So my goal, and the goal of a trader rehab program is whatever restrictions you decide to set on yourself, that's ultimately up to you in terms of share size and everything else. But initially you're going to be resistant to it, just like I am. I don't want to do it. I feel that it's almost worthless to do it, but it is one tool that you can use. A second tool that you can use is to hide your P&L. Given the fact, and so that's why I have a piece of painter's tape covering this right now. And I actually did this yesterday. And yesterday I traded in the morning. I took a number of trades and I had no idea how much I made or lost, but I was pretty sure I was green because I felt like I'd had a pretty good day. I probably would have guessed around $5,000 if I was going to guess. I didn't think it was a huge green day, but I was pretty sure it was a green day. And then I walked away. I came back a little while later. I took a few trades on my laptop, then I switched to my main computer, took a few more trades. I walked away again. I came back to do my recap and realized I had left a trade open and was now deep in the red. That is the second time that's happened to me in my entire career. It was the worst possible time that could have happened to me. And instinctually, without even thinking about it, I checked my P&L, which was displayed. Let's see, let me show you. It was right down here. I checked it right there. And I saw how red I was. And I took away this column. You have this column right here, I guess. But I saw how red I was and I was like, oh my God. God dang it. And at that moment, I decided to jump into another stock immediately to try to recoup that loss. I actually made some money on it, but then I got back in at the top for continuation and flushed down, went red. And because now at that point, I was just watching my P&L. So, I was back to just trading my P&L, trading my emotions, and I finished down 24 grand, and then I was done for the day. Today I came back and I said, all right, I'm putting the painter's tape back on, and I am taking out the column on this window that shows my position. So if I click on it, because the way I have this set up is like this, basically. So that column was right here, and I would check it, but I would try not to look at it. But obviously I was still looking at it sometimes. So anyways, I took that column off of my closed P&L so I would have no idea what it was. And today, as I started trading, I felt a little frustrated. I had a trade out of the gates that I took smaller share size on because I told myself to restrict my share size, and it ended up going up about 50 cents. But I knew I only had small size, and so I was like, you know what? I'm not going to sell it. I'm not up that much on it. So I held it. Comes back down to break even. So now I'm like, God dang it. Now I feel like this share size restriction is holding me back, because if I trade with my normal share size, I would have ripped that trade, had a great trade, and that was on BNGO, which anyways. So I got back in BNGO then as it ripped back up, and then took a good size loss on it. And I don't know where I finished the day on BNGO. It's at the top of my list, which usually means it's the stock I'm up the most on, or in the case of today, perhaps down the least on. But anyway, so I didn't trade that very well. And on my trading platform, I had put painter's tape, and I'll show you where this is right here. So I put painter's tape right here on my computer, and right here I was showing my P&L on the day, and I was covering it, but under the very bottom of the painter's tape appeared a green comma. And so with that, I knew I was up more than $1,000. Took another couple trades, the green comma was gone. So now I knew I was between minus 1,000 and plus 1,000. Took another trade, now I see a red comma. God dang it. So now and this so much speaks to how the intellectual mind is trying to set things up so I can avoid emotional triggers. And then as soon as the emotional trigger happens, now I am again emotionally hijacked. Right now, I will tell you that my willpower is very, very limited. And it's because I'm in this emotional spiral where my fuse is super short. You know, it would take just one little thing for me to pick up this laptop and throw it through the glass window. Like I'm right on the edge. And so the only way for me to sort of bring things down, de-escalate things, is again for a period of time for me to get recentered, to regain my bearings. So I took that P&L off, so I could just take this piece of tape off here, and I don't need that for Monday or whatever. But so anyways, not looking at the P&L. Yesterday felt like a good start to the day. I was like, good for you, man. You know, you didn't look at your P&L. I have no idea where I sit right now. Today will be the first day in my entire career as a trader that I do not know where I sit on the day. I know I'm red, but I don't know by how much. And I really want to look. Why? I want to put a number to the pain. And what does that mean? I'm going to add that to whatever I'm currently down. And now that's the new number of how much I need to get back to square, back to flat, to not feel like a loser anymore, to not be a loser anymore, at least on the month. And so it's taking a pretty tremendous amount of willpower and discipline for me to not allow myself to look at it. Now, because of the way my account is, I know one of them is below the $10,000 max loss because it showed me I couldn't take any more trades in it, and the other one is not. So I know it's not a great day, and I'm presuming I'm down around 150,000 on the month. But yesterday I was off to a good start, and then things fell off the rail real quick. Today I was kind of off to a good start, and then I realized I could see that comma, that little 4x4 pixel, got me back into feeling like, oh no, I was green and now I'm red. Can I get back to green? And frustration. And the very fact is, there's something going on that's outside of my control. And that's the overall market. The market is not as hot right now as it was in December. And the market in November was not as hot as October. And the market in March was not as hot as February. That is a fact. So why do I, when it starts to rain, to throw another analogy at you, why do I keep speeding around the racetrack trying to set a record lap time when it's drizzling? Because what happens is I spin off the track. I come to a total dead stop. Fortunately, I don't hit the wall, let's just say. I come back on the track, but now I'm 10 cars back. And now I'm having to take even bigger risks to try to get back into the lead. And this isn't the time to be taking big risks. And maybe I catch up a couple cars, but I have to go all out. I have to put it all on the line just to get back to third or second. And now the stakes are high and the risk and reward is high. And it goes wrong, and now I'm off the track and I've crashed the car and I'm done. And that's essentially what's happened this month. Is I've gone rather than reading the market early on and being like, wow, the first day of the month started down about $30,000. Not great. Instead of saying, okay, you got a lucky trade there. And that, I guarantee you right there, was being super aggressive. But okay, you got out of the hole. Let's try to hold on to that. Nope, gone on Tuesday. Completely gone. Wednesday. Okay, better, I guess. Gone on Thursday. Friday's gone. My 2 weeks, these are identical. Green, red, green, red, red. Green, red, green, red, red. I can't wait for next Monday and Wednesday. And let's just pray for Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. But I think that I can, I want to see if I can break out of that streak. I want to see if I can have two green days in a row for the first time this year. And I will. It'll happen. So right now, the question is, how long, what if, and I'm just throwing this out there, I genuinely believe not looking at your P&L while trading can be very beneficial, because when you, let's say, are up 10,000 on the day and then you lose half of it, you feel like, if I could just make back that 5,000. Now, if you have had 6 good trades in a row and then you have one trade that was a pretty good size loss, but you don't attribute the number to it, then your intellectual, analytical mind, I think, and this is, again, a little bit of a hypothesis that I'm playing out, but it's from some experience, that part is better able to retain control, to not allow the emotions to get hijacked. Because while the emotions are like, ooh, you just had a loss, not attributing an exact number to it and then doing the math of, well, if I just lost $4,000 and I was up $10,000, then I'm up only $6,000, I've got to make back $4,000 plus $50 in commission. Then that part starts to take control. And if I can prevent that and keep the analytical part, the healthy trader mind in the driver's seat, then I can say, you know what? And this is what I actually did on yesterday before my freak accident. I was able to say, you know what? I had 2 losses in a row. I think it was 2. And I say, you know what? I'm done. I'm done, guys. I'm done. I don't know where I sit today, but I'm done. I shut it down. I walked away. And then I got a message. That, hey, DTSS is ripping. I saw it and I thought, well, holy smokes. Immediately FOMO. I can't afford to miss a stock finally ripping. I'm red on the month. I need this winner. I jumped back in. And that's when I took a trade on my laptop, switched to this computer, and I think it was through switching that I didn't realize that I still had trades open in one account, because I have my main account and my IRA account. And again, it's the first time it's ever happened to me. I can't believe it happened. But anyways, after that happened, and I made money on it. And then I was doing the recap, and I was going to be like, yeah, this is my recap. I don't know where I sit on the day, but I know it's a good day. And then holding a huge position in the other one, and that was devastating for me. So yesterday was a good example of that self-control up until that moment. Today was not as great of an example of the self-control because I think at this point I am just too emotionally charged, and I didn't want to take the profit when I had it because I was like, oh, it's compared to what I lost, it's not even worth it. So I was still in my head, and this all speaks to, are you centered when you're coming into trade? Are you trading? Are you your best self today? And if you're not your best self, someone else in the market is going to be better than you, and you're not going to have good reads on the market, and you're going to do stupid stuff. And it's embarrassing to say all this and to admit all this. I'm a teacher. I'm supposed to be a role model. I'm supposed to be a leader. But this is the reality of where I am and where I'm at. And I think that this is the truth of what it is to be a trader, that it is a constant struggle, and that there'll be periods, like if I start the month in the green and I'm in a hot streak, none of this emotional stuff seems to come up because I'm immediately in the driver's seat. I feel confident. I feel good. Even if I have a loss, I can kind of justify, I'm like, well, I'm still green on the month, and I just keep rolling. The analytical, intellectual, aggressive part stays in charge for the most part. But when I start to spin out and go off the rails and experience some losses, this part there's this shift that happens where I start grasping for straws, throwing Hail Mary passes, taking a huge position, 50 or 100,000 shares, being up 40, 50 cents on it, not taking any off the table because I need the full dollar a share to get back XYZ. And I'm just fueling that emotional spiral. This is a bad one for me. But talking about it, I think, is somewhat therapeutic for me. So thank you for letting me do this and listening. And my hope as a teacher is that there is something that you can learn from my mistakes. Doesn't mean you won't make some of your own mistakes. You probably will. 9 out of 10 traders lose money. But perhaps this does help you in your pursuit to try to become a better trader. If nothing else, hopefully it's entertaining. But yeah, so the question for me now is, I do have a little bit of a hard time trading without seeing where I'm at on the day, because what if I have a day where, in 3 trades, I'm killing it? What if I'm up 25 or 30,000? And that's the day where, because I'm up that much, I can afford to take more risk, and typically I would. And then that becomes the bigger move and the bigger winner. Well, I think that 2 things. Number one, this is not a permanent decision. This is a tool to not look at my P&L. This is a tool that I use. Essentially, it's a coping mechanism to help me cope with higher levels of emotion in my trading. Trading with smaller size is also a coping mechanism that I can use. However, as we learned today, trading with smaller size also can create unintended consequences of FOMO and somewhat erratic trading, because, well, with only 100 shares or whatever the size is for you, who cares that I'm up 50 cents, right? And then you're not taking it off the table when you really should, and then it goes back to break even, and then you get more frustrated. So I think my focus right now is actually one less on share size and more on trying to reduce the emotional sort of hijack that is happening to me. And so by not looking at my P&L, that's certainly a step. I do think that it's important for me to trade with generally smaller share size, just simply due to the fact that the market is not very hot right now. If the market was hotter, then big share size would be fine. But right now, like on some of these trades, the trade that I took on this stock, not this one, man, look at that rejection. Look at that drop. But on POLA, so this is the one that kind of drove me to the brink today. I took a big position on it right here. Break back over volume weighted average price. I was in at $13.16. Oops. So right about there. It goes up to 48. I don't take any off the table. Goes up right here to a high of 70. I don't take any off the table. I was looking for 14. It drops right down here to 43. And I had to cut the loss. I was down 50 cents a share. Cut the loss in the 70s and the 50s. It bounces back up. Look at this. Oh boy. But that rejection. So that doesn't happen as often in a hot market. This is more cold market stuff. The choppiness. The break there at 1550, a false breakout on the 1 minute, dropping back down, the topping tail candle, even this candle here. This is all choppy market stuff. While this did make relatively big moves, the cleanest moves were early, and even on some of those moves early, I still lost on it. I had a trade around 14 here, something like that I lost on, and it was choppy. So this is choppy market stuff. Again, in a hot market, we look at some of the charts from hot markets, and it's like, oh my God, why am I even bothering with this stuff? Why am I even trying? Save the big share size for the real momentum. I mean, oh my goodness, this is just a waste of my time. So yeah, I dug myself a good size hole. Well, I don't know. I don't know exactly how much I lost on it, but I know that was a good size loss there. So anyways, yeah, my goal right now is to try to have, a week of kind of mellower trading to try to bring down the emotions a little bit. And that will probably be, that will require, I would think, not looking at my profit, and maybe getting through all of next week, doing recaps for you and being like, I don't know how much I made today. You know something I don't know, but I don't know. I genuinely don't know how much I made or lost today. So today's the first day ever, and I'm going to see how I feel about continuing that for the rest of next week. on the question of share size, I, at my discretion, like on BNGO today, I wanted to buy 50,000 shares of this thing right here at 880, but I couldn't do it because I had the cap on my share size. That was absolutely the right move, and I was furious that I didn't make 20,000 bucks on it. So, on the share size, I feel like I obviously in that moment I was still making really good decisions. That was before I went off the rails. So if I can continue to make good decisions by not getting emotionally hijacked, which is being caused more by looking at my P&L, then perhaps I can trade with regular share size, whether it's 15,000 or 30,000, and still be grounded. But I don't know that for sure. So I'm not totally sure where I have to sit on share size, because if at the end of next week I'm like, well, I don't know how I did, but I'm pretty sure I probably had 5 red days in a row. I'm probably only going to feel more frustrated. And then I will be absolutely forced to go into trader rehab, because I can't have 5 more red days trading with this type of share size. That's just not going to work. So I could just cut that off at the pass and say, going into tomorrow or going into next week, I'll just go ahead and do both. I'll use both of these tools that have helped me in the past. One is restricting my share size, because then even if I do have 4 more red days, the losses will be much, much smaller, right? So I'm, kind of stopping or slowing the bleeding. And, if the market does pick back up, then, okay, maybe I will feel a little FOMO, but at least it's, the downside is worse than the upside is good, I think, in this case. And then going into the following week, I could reevaluate. So I would say that that's probably the right thing to do, but I'm resistant to doing it, partially because of the opportunity missed on BNGO today. But again, we're not in a really hot market, so it's just not a good time to be sizing up with big size right now. And I think what I have to do is accept the reality that I will close January red. I was red last January of 2020, and I maybe should just accept that I will be red this month. And by accepting it and trying to find peace with it and being okay with it, that then kind of frees me of the desperate attempt to try to get back to green. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So maybe Monday or whatever should be first day of trader rehab for me, and these first 2 days of attempting to not look at my P&L obviously didn't work super well. So I would have been better off these last 2 days if I had stuck with small size the whole day through. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a very tough decision. But ultimately, we don't know how strong the market will be. But if we presume it could be choppy or weak, we have to control and minimize our downside risk of loss. And the 2 ways you can do that are reducing your account size and reducing your share size. So reducing my share size is the easiest one to do. And so those are sort of the 2 tools that I look at: hiding the P&L to stop that emotional trigger when you see the number of the loss, and reducing share size so that the amount of win and loss is just smaller, so your emotions come back down. And try to just see it through. And you know what? If I could do that for the next 2 weeks and get myself recentered, then I'll be going into the new month with probably a bit more confidence. And maybe by that point, the market will be starting to improve. And there's a really good chance that 4 weeks from now, 5 weeks from now, 6 weeks or 8 weeks from now, all of this will be totally water under the bridge. It's very easy to forget. It's very easy to forget how painful the struggle was, how frustrated you felt, and just be in the joy of trading a hot market until it cools off again and you're back to where you were before. And you forgot how to trade in a cold market and how to emotionally handle days or weeks that are just brutally slow and just not working. So anyways, I'd say that's about it for me. I hope this is helpful for you. As you can tell, I'm still a little bit, I fortunately, we have a 3-day weekend here, so I have some time to sort of process and meditate and try to get back to center a little bit. That forces a little bit of space for me. And when I come back on Tuesday, I'm going to have to think carefully about the question of share size. I don't really have any question about not looking at my P&L. I feel pretty confident about that, especially given the fact that I was in good control both yesterday and today before I started looking. And today, even though it was just that comma, that was enough. So I feel good about that one at the least, but the share size, I'm not as sure about. And maybe that will be something that, ultimately, you want to get to the place where you're so in charge in that kind of intellectual part, that's the part that's driving your decision making, that you can say, well, Tuesday, maybe I trade a small size because the gap scanner doesn't look good. Today the gap scanner didn't look good. Yesterday it was not that great either, actually. So, perhaps that is an ability to make that decision, on the day of and say, listen, today, based on what I'm seeing right now, based on yesterday, let's just cut it at 6,000 shares and not go higher than that. Or, okay, we've got a lead and gap, we're up 225%. The right thing to do in this scenario is to be aggressive. And then that starts to get back into really trading the market you're in. And that's where you want to be. But sometimes you have to put on these bumpers when things start getting a little out of control and off the rails. And so that's where I'm at right now. Please feel free to comment below any thoughts that you have, suggestions, tips, tricks. I think I'm the type of person that, and maybe I'm using this as a little bit of a scapegoat, but because I've always had problems with anxiety and panic attacks and things like that, I feel like I already have a hyper fight or flight response. And given the science that experiencing financial loss triggers that same part of your brain, I feel that I may be more predisposed to having a emotional response and becoming an emotional trader, and that the struggle for me is bigger. I see for some traders, and I admire their ability to seem so calm and grounded. I am just like, wow, will I ever get there? And I hope that I will. It's something I have to keep working towards. But for those of you that are like me, or maybe you're even worse than me, I hope that this is helpful. And I would also end by saying that as good as a strategy is, and I think my strategy is very good, ultimately, it's up to the person that's trading it to produce the profit. And so what you see here, I wouldn't say is a flaw in my strategy that I teach in the classes. I would say what you're seeing here is a flaw in my own character and in my own ability to maintain composure. And that's something that, for me to really get to the next level in my trading, I will need to be able to master. I will want to get to a place where I can see the P&L going up and down, and I can maybe feel the emotional response and say, all right, you know what? This is the moment where I'm going to step back and say I'm done for the day. And I'm not there yet. So I've got some work to do. But seeing the path in front of you is sometimes half the battle, and I do see that path, but I struggle to stay on it and really, it's a struggle. It is. So anyways, that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching this. I hope it's been helpful. And this is my, I guess, week in review, worst week of my trading career right now. And hopefully this is something that years from now you can still watch and look back on and see value in. And maybe I'll look back on and during a hot streak and be grateful that I'm finally on a hot streak because of how bad it can get. But I hope that I can try to improve and not continue to be back in this same exact spot every 2 months or 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. It's frustrating because it sometimes feels like back in the same spot. But hey, having been here many times before, I know I'll get out because I've done it before. So that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Please hit the thumbs up if you haven't already. Please subscribe if you haven't already. The thumbs up is a vote for transparency, which is something that's really important to me. My broker statements go on the website at the end of the month. We're always in this short month end kind of each month stands on its own, and that creates some pressure for me. But I post the green months, I post the red months, so you guys see it all, and I thank you guys for tuning in. So that's it for me, and I'll see you guys all next week. Bye, everyone.